Well, there's a lot of talk from people who call themselves revolutionaries now. Do you consider yourself a revolutionary?
I'd rather think we're evolutionary and perhaps revolutionary in the sense that we're evolving maybe faster than the times. At least we'd like to think so.
Suppose someone has heard about Deltona Corporation and you don't know what he's heard. What would you tell him to make sure that he has it straight?
We build communities and we try to build them ahead of their times, ahead of man's needs then. Man's needs seem to be changing faster what he wants. So we have to think 10 years ahead of ourselves.
If you were a young man now and had a chance to go into this line of work, would you look for a job with Deltona Corporation?
Oh, absolutely. Deltona is a young company in itself. Its ambitions are great. There's many things it can do in Florida, and there's also things to be done outside of Florida. We have the versatility now of the manufactured home. There's many, many things that we can do. We're just really getting started. My father started the construction business in 1908. From that beginning, I stand here, my brother stands here, and we've developed what we think is the finest organization known to this area anyway.
What have you built?
Well, my father built Camp Gordon, Fort McPherson in Atlanta in World War I, built many commercial buildings throughout the South during the 20s and 30s. And my brothers and I built the naval base at Key West during the war, about $15 million worth of work. That doesn't sound like much now, but I suppose on today's dollar it would be like 100 million or something like that. But we built probably 25,000, 30,000 homes in the state of Florida. Many, many commercial buildings.
What are the communities?
Well, the first one, of course, Deltona, which is some 8 years old now and has, I guess, 10,000 people living there, and that's near DeLand, Florida, halfway between Daytona and Orlando.
You've had a chance to see what happens at Deltona. In fact, you call your corporation
right
after the first community that you developed. What has happened there? What are the people like?
It's become a typical American community. I think people I talk to say they're more active in Deltona than they ever were, wherever they live. First place, they have more time for it, and somehow other people are in a friendlier mood, and they all talk to each other, and they all belong to clubs, and they all seem to be very active. It's an active retirement kind of a thing. It isn't retirement in the sense that they go down and just lay down and look at the sun. So you get really a dynamic and electric feel. Their faces seem to be bright and smiling. Very few grumblers. The few grumblers that are there eventually leave. They don't want to be around a lot of happy people, I guess.
Then it wouldn't be too hard to find a fishing buddy.
Oh, not at all. Not at all. It'd be the opposite, I think. If you only had 3 people you could get in a boat, there'd be more applicants to go fishing. But it's not just all fishing either, or even growing flowers. They want other things to do. So we've started an adult education school there. I think we have 500 or 600 enrolled in it, where people can take all sorts of courses to improve their minds or their creativeness. This has gone on for 7 years now and keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
What does Don think of the way Deltona has been growing?
Well, of course, Don was associated with it from almost the day it was born, and I think Don, if you asked him, would say it's one of the best things that ever happened to him. He just thinks Deltona is just super, just beautiful. And he would feel the same as I did, that it was his first love, Deltona. We started Spring Hill some 4 years later, after Deltona was started. All of the lots are sold out, or virtually all of the lots are sold. There are a few scattered lakefront lots left. We're still building and selling homes, however, and there's probably 1,500 homes built there or under construction. It has golf course, shopping centers, property set aside for schools. And it is the nucleus of a new city, and I guess you'd say a city is being born there. Will evolve much as Deltona has evolved. Then there's Citrus Springs, which was opened a year ago last January. It's over half sold in lots, and I would guess in another year will be sold out. It has, I think, 200 houses, either under construction or completed. And it will evolve just as Spring Hill and Deltona. Then there's St. Augustine Shores, which is 6 miles south of St. Augustine, Florida, on US 1, and goes from US 1 to the Matanzas River. And this is a little different community, although it's directed mostly the same kind of a market, in that it's more self-contained, self-maintained. You pay a fee for maintenance. And that was just opened in January, and I think there's about 150 homes there. But it's primarily for our manufactured home division. In other words, all those homes at St. Augustine are manufactured homes, which really is to say that the homes are the same. Basically, they're FHA approved, Southern Building Code approved, on a concrete foundation. They're just built in a factory and put in place as distinguished from building out in the field. Newest one, Sunny Hill, was just opened in June. It's 20,000 acres in extent. It's had great acceptance from the beginning. I guess we sold more property at Sunny Hills at the start of it than we did any other project.
Where is that?
This is north of Panama City, which is in northwest Florida. And it's beautiful rolling country, lovely lakes on it, heavily wooded. But we've added about 5,000 acres of what we call greenbelt, which would be nature trails and so on. This is an indication of the changing evolutionary process of planning something, trying to plan for the future. This is the first time we have deliberately put greenbelt areas within the community, and I think it's going to be a thing that we'll continue to do.
What kind of activities will take place in the greenbelt, which I assume are parks?
Nature trails and picnic areas. And
are there lakes in Sunny Hills?
Yes, there's beautiful lakes. There's one big one, Gap Lake, which is a very large lake. And then there's other very nice small lakes spotted through the area.
Well, if someone went to Sunny Hills, he wouldn't see very much now.
Well,
what would be his best way to find out what's going to happen at Sunny Hills?
Well, if he went to Sunny Hills, he would see a considerable. There is a road system at the start of a shopping center, and there's model homes, and there's a recreation building, and the start of a road system that would show you, generally speaking, what your property will look like when it's finished, even though you may not be able to stand on a particular lot that you're thinking about buying. But a better way to see it, I would think, is to see the general area of Sunny Hill after being there. Then you could go to Deltona, Spring Hill, Citrus Springs, and see a more mature community, pretty near exactly like Sunny Hills will be, where we have delivered thousands of lots and built thousands of houses and have complete communities with shopping centers and churches and all the rest of it. So you're seeing a facsimile then of Sunny Hills if you visit those other projects.
You haven't mentioned Mackle Island. Have you forgotten it already?
Well, no, I'd forgotten it. That's a big daddy, I guess you'd call it. Mackle is, of course, oriented to a different market, and it's about 80% waterfront property on the Gulf of Mexico, and it's higher priced property. Lots sell for probably an average of $14,000-$15,000, and we build houses there that around the $40,000 range, so it's for a more affluent person. The appreciation in value, of course, has been very dramatic at Mackle, as it has in other places. But this is basically what we're doing now. I haven't forgotten Mackle. We're building a 400-room hotel there next door to our present 150-room hotel. It'll be the largest hotel on the Gulf Coast of Florida. We'll be able to handle a convention of 1,000, 1,200 people.
Well, how is Mackle Island framed, for instance, as I think a beautiful example of a planned place?
Yes, well, of course, this is what we started out to do. Acquired a large piece of land in one which had limits to it, so that within that border we could plan all the amenities of a city without this piecemeal adding on to it or whatnot. So we went out and got a big enough piece of land to support population and have road systems that would carry the eventual traffic, would have natural preserves to preserve a great deal of the fish and wildlife and the birds, preserve the things that are there now for future citizens of the new city we're building.
Well, you're almost walled in at Marco, aren't you?
There's Rookery Bay on the north of us, which is controlled by, I believe, the Audubon Society. On the east of us is Aquatic Preserve 14. To the east of that is Seminole State Park. And to the east of that is, and wrapping around all of it, is the Everglades National Park. And we have recently, on the south of us, agreed with the state to turn over those lands lying south of Caxambas Pass, and they will be kept in their natural state. And of course, on the west of us is the Gulf of Mexico. So we're completely surrounded by natural preserves, so to speak.
You're walled in then, and you have to decide now what Marco Island will be 10 years from now and 15 years from now and so on.
Well, that's right, and that's what we're doing. For instance, we have a team of marine biologists and naturalists on the staff of Marco Island that evaluates, measures the amounts of kind of fish and so on that are in the area. We're creating artificial reefs off in the Gulf. So we're in the planning process. The environmental considerations play a much greater role and a much more scientific role. Well, we used to say, well, let's leave this island for the birds. We knew that there was a nice place for birds to live. We didn't know quite why. Now we are learning why.
There are quite a few birds there.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of birds there. They congregate all over the place, including the golf course and the ocean and people's lawns, I guess. They seem to be everywhere I go around Marco. And, of course, they largely roost in the Mangrove Islands that are being undisturbed south of us.
Are you a bird watcher?
No, sir, I'm not. I like to look at them, and they're beautiful things, but I wouldn't know one from another.
The pelicans have disappeared in California and also in Greece, and yet there are a lot of them on Marco.
This is one of the concerns of our environmental staff, headed by George Spinner. He's doing some quantitative studies on how many pelicans there are, how many egrets there are, and so on, and indeed how many snook there are between us and Lost River, whatever, 40 miles away. I don't know how he's going to count all these, but I'm sure he probably would have some kind of a quantitative measurement of the amount of pelicans there are there.
Joe Garagiola is a friend of yours. What does he think about Florida, really, down deep? As a catcher who made it big, what does he really think of Florida?
I think Joe is one of Florida's great admirers, and I think he thoroughly loves it himself, and I know his family does. And to him, it's like going to heaven, you know, leaving the activity that he's surrounded with and the environment, if you will, that he's living in. And I'm sure that in the back of his mind that he tends to spend more and more time down here as his program will, or his activities will permit. And in time, he probably will end up living here most of the time.
How often has he been here during the past year?
Maybe 4 or 5 times in the last year. He's coming again in November.
What else are you up to?
Well, we have what really is a new product, which is a community with no less than acre lots, and will go up to 5 acres or more if you want to buy 2 5-acre lots, which will be new in our concept, and roughly half of it you could own a horse and keep it on your lot. In other words, stable it on your lot if you wanted to. It will have equestrian ways where you can ride horse trails, I guess you'd call them. It's right contiguous to Citrus Springs, as a matter of fact, near Dunnellon, Florida, southwest of Ocala. The other half of the community will be also acre and up lots, will be built around a golf course, and you will not be able to keep a horse on your lot, but you can and do have access to the stable area in the other part of the project.
Oh, you run these things like an Arab chief, don't you?
No. We think it's really another product designed for the man that wants a little room, wants a little land, wants a little openness, a little privacy, as against some of the other places where the lots are not that large. So It is really another product that we've never developed before.
What else is new?
We have two manufacturing plants, one of which is open and in production and has been in production for some time in Sarasota, Florida, and another one in St. Augustine, in which they built a complete house, which is FHA approved, meet building codes, and is a house in the conventional sense that it's a full manufactured house. Each plant has a capacity of about 1,000 homes a year on one shift, about 1,800 homes on two shifts at each plant.
Well, how often are you able to get over to your manufacturing place to find out how they're doing? I mean, do you have to ride pretty close herd on your house building factories?
Well, I go over there perhaps once a month, but it runs pretty well, and I guess maybe I have a little parental pride in that my son runs it, and runs it so well it really doesn't need that much attention.
You'll always go back to what I've heard are the Mackle firsts. My guess is that many people would think that everybody does what you call the Mackle firsts.
Well, the three Mackle firsts, as you know, are water line to each lot, limited size, and a coordinated growth plan which allows a purchaser to fit his retirement needs to the progress of our construction and to his payments. It really takes a new piece of land to do this. You can't take existing acreage where you have been selling for some years on a, let's say, one plan basis of a 10-year payout or something.
Could you tell me something about the insurance policies, and would that qualify as a Mackle fourth?
Well, yes, I think it would be a big Mackle fourth, really.
What is it?
Well, actually, it insures a purchaser of a lot under certain conditions on his life, that if he should die, his unpaid balance is paid by the insurance company.
And that's an unusual thing.
Why, of course, and this is one of the things that people have said to us over the years. You know, a particular middle-aged couple that says the husband wants to buy the lot. And the wife says, well, honey, if something happens to you, I can't keep these payments up. Because all I have is some of your insurance or something else. But so this overcomes that risk of somebody embarking on a program, making their payments, and then something happens to their health. That is, they die. It's simply a great sales plus because it's great for the customer. It all comes back to that. If it's good for the customer, then it's a good thing for all of us.
Do people outside of the United States buy property in Deltona Corporation communities?
Oh, yes. Yes, we have a great deal of buyers in all of our projects from all over the world, really. South America, the Far East, Europe, Sweden.
But what advantage is it to them? Are they going to move to Florida?
Well, I would think that most of the people buying in those areas would be buying for investment purposes, appreciation in value. There are some, and some already, who have built and are living at Deltona, for instance. And I suppose to some extent they're thinking of the world growing smaller and a future supersonic jet and those sort of things. But I would guess more than anything it would be the foreign nationals then would be buying for investment and appreciation purposes.
Is the land any good?
Well, of course, it's hand-picked by us as the most desirable land for its intended purpose in the state of Florida. So the land itself is physically the finest. And then value, of course, then is created by building a community. Because to take land, even beautiful land, and divide it up and put some roads in and divide it up 3 lots to the acre, just isn't going to increase it to the extent, certainly, that it will, by reason of building a community on it where people come and live. This, of course, is our main, first thing that we are builders, and we are committed and dedicated to building as many houses or homes as we possibly can in these communities to make the community grow. People make value.
Things are mixed up in our cities now. I heard one land planner say there's not one decent city in the United States. Whether or not that's true, do you think that your communities are a return to the 1930s?
I don't know what you mean return to the 1930s, but our cities certainly are not going to have the ills that some of our big cities have now. Otherwise, we'd be poor planners. Our cities should avoid all the mistakes of the past, at least those known eras of the past. We have the land now. We have the full freedom to plant it as it should be planned. The problems that we know about today, we are planning to cure in the future. It used to be that sewer plants were never owned by private developers, or rarely. And as Florida grew, and there were no sewers out there, so we had to go build a sewer and own it and operate it ourselves. We're not particularly interested in being in that business, but we had to do it for looking to the future.
Well, how can
and
you
we're just starting.
How can you do all this all by yourself?
Well, I don't do it all by myself. First off, I have another brother. I had a third brother who retired last year. Neil Barr is the Chief Operating Officer, Executive Vice President.
You and Neil Barr, is that the extent of the...
No. There's my brother Robert, as I keep saying. Senior Vice President in charge of Engineering and Architecture, Jim Ventzel. I guess Jim has planned more cities than any man in the world. From the word go, I mean from just raw acreage to a creation of the whole city. Our Senior Vice President, Bill O'Dowd, he runs all the construction and handles all the financial affairs of the company. Then under those people are a whole list of perhaps 15 vice presidents who have specialty departments like public relations or engineering.
You have great control then over all these, or you have complete control.
Well, of course, we're a very, very unique company, and I don't think there's any that I know of that has the capacity that we have in-house. We have our own utility design and construction division. We have our own land planners within the company. We have our own architectural department. We have our own financial department. We are a self-contained company that can do everything without walking out of the front door, almost literally.
Did it ever occur to you that you're doing what Mussolini was doing?
Well, we do it in a little different way. We operate under the umbrella of a democracy, and we're not trying to change the political aspect. We're dealing with building and not guiding people's lives. We try to maybe help show them a direction to go, but they still go the direction they want to go.
Do you think that Florida will be the signpost to the future?
I really think that Florida has all those things that are needful for the future to be a graceful, beautiful, wonderful place to live. And one of its greatest assets is its drinking water supply. And we are now in Florida being conscious of the management of this, even though it's a great supply, of making sure that it's not overused. But drinking water is and will be probably the most important thing for man's development.
How big a factor do you think Disney World will be? What effect will it have on Florida?
Well, I think the biggest effect it will have is that many millions of people will make it a point to see Florida that might not have ever seen it. And once they see it, I think by and large the majority will be amazed at how beautiful it is and either want to come back as a tourist or come back and live and retire. So it's really kind of like a big ad for the state of Florida.
I have one more. Where are you going?
Where am I going?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I hope to, along with my brother and the others, lead this company into greater things, build perhaps out of this state and into other states. I mean, that's my ambition. That's the ambitions we had when we started out. We have all the ingredients that are necessary to become a great, and I use this word loosely, but the number one company in this business.
And you can stay honest and do it.
It has to start from there, otherwise it won't work.